Here we go on a Wednesday. Ed Schultz, Susan commentary. Good to have you with us. Now, one of the last commentaries I gave was about how I equate a sports team to winning a championship. And, you know, if you still got a mathematical way of winning the pennant or winning the title or going to the playoffs, you exhaust every effort. The people of Idaho, this is after the Ohio vote. After the mainstream media is selling the country that there's no way Hillary Clinton can be derailed at all, what do they have in Idaho? A record turnout for caucuses participation last night. 2 states won by Bernie Sanders, Utah and Idaho, and of course Arizona goes to Hillary Clinton. The point I'm making here is that, you know, losers can pick up their bat and ball and go home. And that's what the mainstream media wanted Bernie Sanders to do. That, you know, there was conversation coming out of the Clinton camp that, well, you know, we've really got to start thinking about Donald Trump and we've got to turn to the general election when half the country hadn't even voted. Now, somebody in Idaho just simply isn't watching the mainstream media, and that somebody is a hell of a lot of people that believe in change, that believe that there should be taxation on Wall Street. And, you know, we hear a lot about that from the Sanders campaign, and now Hillary Clinton is talking about a transaction tax on the market when there's a high rate of deals being cut. If there's a lot of transactions taking place with stocks and such not on Wall Street, that there would be a tax on that. She's even come around to that. Don't think Wall Street isn't fighting this. Because last week, one of the main organizations that oversees Wall Street and deals in mutual funds sent a letter to Chris Van Hollen, who, by the way, is in a tough primary fight in Maryland, sent a message to him, a letter to him saying that do not put this transaction tax in your budget. In other words, it isn't going to go. We're going to fight it. We don't like what the Democrats are saying, and you're not going to get money out of Wall Street. This plays, and I hope the Sanders people understand this. This is a great narrative for Bernie Sanders to go on the stump and explain to the American people how behind the scenes Wall Street is fighting what he wants to change. And it's a simple story. It can be told in just a few minutes, and I think it should be part of his stump. Am I coaching the senator? Yeah, I guess I am, because I didn't give up. I didn't quit. I didn't take my bat and ball and go home. But imagine the peaks and valleys your emotions go through the season of a campaign, just like peaks and valleys of a sports team that's good enough to win the championship but isn't there yet. There are so many analogies and parallels that can be drawn. Larry Cohen joins us, former president of Communication Workers of America and a surrogate for the Bernie Sanders campaign and chair of Democracy Initiative. Larry, good to have you back with us.
My pleasure.
Let's hear it for the folks in Idaho. They're not paying attention to the garbage. What do you make of that?
Awesome. I mean, not only the record turnout, but in Ada County, the largest county, 40% of voters, Boise, people lined up for hours to vote. And others are going to tell people that their votes don't matter. Obviously, thousands of people in Idaho last night decided their votes did matter. And they stood out there in cold weather for hours to show that they're committed to change. And I think that for all of us who are committed to change, who believe the Democratic Party is not a populist party and needs to be one in order to win, not just win the presidency, but in order to elect Democrats across the country, it needs to be a populist party. The last thing in the world you would want is Bernie Sanders to stop. He's the populist champion. He's bringing people into this election, and if the party reforms itself at the convention, people will stay. If the party reverts to being a party of high finance, Wall Street, $2,700 a pop donors instead of $27, these voters will leave, and that's really what's at stake.
What are you hearing about the voting process in Arizona last night? The number of polling places was greatly reduced. What do you know about that?
Well, there's a number of factors. Yeah, I mean, this is what they do in Arizona. You reduce the polling places. You have early voting, which sounds like a nice idea, but in a primary season where things change all the time, to have early voting start a month before the primaries, almost half the people voted early. It changes the nature of the electorate. It was a closed primary, and all these things obviously contribute to an uphill climb for a candidate like Bernie Sanders.
Well, I mean, to go from 800 polling places to 200 down to 60, I mean, give me a break. Somebody's finagling somewhere to make sure that the low voter turnout is going to be there, which, of course, would play into the theory of stopping any kind of movement. What do you think?
No, I think that's right. I think it's deliberate, and to a certain extent it worked. And I do think, some of this is complicated because on the one hand, you want to encourage people to participate, so they do have early voting there and absentee voting. And then on the other hand, we should be encouraging people to vote on Election Day, particularly in primaries, because, it's a moving ball right till the end. They obviously discourage people from voting, the kind of voting that we saw in Utah and Idaho yesterday.
Record-breaking turnouts. I mean, that says something after the mainstream media sell. And the mainstream media is giving less and less time to Bernie Sanders. All you got to do is watch the screens. I know that we're in the midst of terror coverage and what has unfolded, and everybody's jumping in front of the parade and being an expert on what we got to do to keep the country safe. But the fact is that this is almost being skirted under the rug. It's not getting a whole lot of attention. And the mindset of the mainstream media is that this is Hillary's and the math is too strong and it can't be done. Now, I dream of a blockbuster convention. I mean, I know that there's a lot of conversation over on the right wing about how they're going to possibly derail Trump. I don't know how that's going to happen. The feud between he and Cruz is as heated as it's ever been, has gotten to finger pointing about what their past is all about. In the meantime, I think the blockbuster convention is going to be the Democrats in Philadelphia. I mean, if Bernie Sanders runs the table here and does not give up and goes all the way to the convention and ends up geographically winning more than half of the country, yet behind by several hundred, and the delegates and the superdelegates make the big makeup, I mean, it's pretty obvious what we're looking at the convention, isn't it, Larry?
Yeah, absolutely. And we only need to look back to 1988. Jesse Jackson, Dukakis was the nominee. And Jackson came in there with 1,100 or 1,200 delegates. Bernie will have more than that. And demanded changes in how the party was run, which is called the Rules Committee, and got things like proportional voting, and actually eliminated superdelegates, although they were put back in a year later by the DNC itself, not the convention. So I think we're going to see a major effort. I am a superdelegate who wants to end superdelegates in the nominating process. I think we're going to see a major effort to reform this party and make it, as I said, more of a populist party. And every vote that we get leads to delegates, leads to that effort for real change.
Okay.
That's what I hope to see in Philadelphia.
Larry Cohen with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Larry, stay with us. I want to come back and talk about the union vote and some of the conversation that's going on about how Trump is grabbing some of these guys around the country, and also the AFL-CIO has taken out quite a social media package to try to educate their members on exactly what they're up against. Stay with us. I want to talk about that. We're right back after this. I recently discovered PillPack. It's a full-service pharmacy that takes care of everything for me. They pre-sort and deliver all my medications and vitamins in easy-to-tear packets, labeled with the date and time for each dose. Their pharmacists are available 24/7, and they manage all of my refills. They'll do the same for you. They even made sure my insurance was compatible before they transferred my medications over. It's unbelievable how much better my life has been since I switched to PillPack. Hey folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Good to have you back with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. WeGotEd.com, RawStory.com, RingOfFireRadio.com. All right, we keep hearing that Trump, of course, is going to get these blue-collar workers and these white guys out there that roll their sleeves up and go to work. And he has appealed to the hard-working middle class in this country via the trade deals and the tax cuts, which he claims he can deliver. So much that the AFL-CIO is going on the offensive to try to make sure that their members know exactly what Trump is all about, how anti-union he really is, how he's treated workers in his life, and don't make a mistake. And no matter who gets the nomination on the Democratic side, you got to vote your own interest. Larry, how big a lift is this? Larry Cohen was still with us. He's a former president of Communication Workers of America, now the chair of the Democracy Initiative. How heavy a lift is this going to be? And it's always an education process, but it seems to be a little bit more intense this time.
Yeah, well, again, I think part of it is do the Democrats offer a populist alternative? What kind of party does it look like? Whether people like it or not, part of Trump's appeal is that he presents himself as if he's outside the big money, even though he is big money, and he's done that effectively from the beginning. So, I think it's great what the AFL-CIO is trying to do, but I think in reality, it's going to, again, depend on the rest of the campaign on the Democratic side. What is the alternative? Otherwise, people will either stay home or some voters will vote for Trump because they're fed up with elites, and they don't like elites. They don't like this linkage between the corporations that are screwing working people every day, worse than ever in our history almost of this country, and I'm talking about the large corporations, not small business, and politicians who are addicted to their money, these big fundraisers. And, what I'm encouraging labor people to do, whether they support Bernie or not, is to help us reform this party and, at least in terms of primaries, get the big money out. And, Bernie has shown you can raise plenty of money in a campaign the right way, which is regular working people giving an average of $27 2 or 3 times, raising over $100 million.
Got to ask you a final question. I want to know about Larry Cohen. What keeps you going? I mean, my Lord, you're all over the place. You're not getting paid. It's coming from the heart and the belly. It's coming from your loins, I guess. You're in this fight. I mean, I admire you. I mean, what keeps you going?
Well, the people I meet along the way. I mean, I was in Washington, Tacoma at the Longshore Hall on Saturday. Absolutely amazing folks. They weren't all members. It was open to the community. And then then out on the peninsula in Washington, and, people marched through their small town, and we had a rally at the end of hundreds of people. The people you meet everywhere along the way. Next week I'm in Indiana, and, I'll be at that Carrier plant where United Technologies shutting down the plant, moving it to Mexico. They make $1 billion a month in profit. So, Chuck Jones, who's the president of that local there, or the president of the local Nabisco who I was with in Chicago. These are the people that keep me going, and obviously the people in my own union and people like you. I mean, large numbers of people in this country are standing up and fighting back, and it's an honor to stand with them.
What day are you in Indiana?
Monday and Tuesday.
I'll be there.
Okay.
I'm there. I mean, why not? I mean, this is the story of America. This cuts right to the chase. This This parallels and is exactly like the Sensata story of what Mitt Romney did to those workers in, I think it was LaPorte, Illinois, we did a show, or Lafayette, Illinois, we did a show from, and showcased how he was shipping jobs overseas and all the money was funneling to the top, and he was there to catch all of it. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, and it's all a result of a lousy trade agreement, isn't it?
A series of lousy trade agreements, starting in the 90s, if not earlier than that. And, we don't have trade policy. What we have is a belief that if it's good for the multinational corporation, somehow it's good for our nation. And if it's good foreign policy, as the department defines it, it's good for American workers. That hasn't worked out. That's a big part of the reason that we're fighting for change. Larry
Cohen, great friend, great ally for American workers. Keep it up, my friend. I'll see you in Indiana.
All right. I'll get you more info on it. Thank you.
All right. See how this stuff works, folks? It's just like that. This is Ed Schultz News and Commentary brought to you by PillPack. Dealing with medication can be a real pain in the rear end. I mean, again, and it's a worry, too. Do you have enough pills? Are they going to be there on time? Are they correct? And if you're somebody who loves to take your medication regularly and do exactly what the doctor says to you, and you don't like standing in line at a pharmacy, you don't want to sort pills every week, and you're constantly dealing with your doctor on your health insurance, and you're getting all these phone calls, look, let me tell you something. I have discovered a new service that takes away all the headaches. It's PillPack. Go to PillPack.com. Now, let me tell you, PillPack works like a normal pharmacy, except they deliver your prescription right to your front door. That's right. So I don't ever have to wait in line. They package my medication by the dose. And, of course, I got to keep the ticker going. You know how that is. And so I definitely pay attention to it, and they help me do it. They handle any issues with my doctor or my insurance, so I never have any hassles. And the best thing about it is it's free. This service is free. So you just pay your regular copays like any other pharmacy. And to sign up to learn more, just go on over to PillPack.com. Go to PillPack.com. It's pharmacy simplified, and you won't believe how much better your life is when you are dealing with the great folks at PillPack. Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team bring you Ed Schultz News and Commentary. We're back tomorrow.